Okay, I believe we're live. So welcome everybody to today's licensing subcommittee hearing. My name's Councillor Gareth Shaw and I'm chairing the hearing today. My colleagues are here, Councillor Paul Conlon and Councillor Nigel Sumner, and we are making up the subcommittee today. I have apologies from Councillor Anthony Kelly, who was due to be on this subcommittee and chairing it, and Councillor Kelly has been substituted by Councillor Conlon for today. We also have in attendance Miss Hatun Zeb, who is the legal advisor for us here on the subcommittee, and Cornelia Harding, who's the clerk to the subcommittee, and she is taking the minutes. I know that we have the licensing authority, and that is being voted by Mr. Bob Deere, and Mr. Panchal is representing Mr. Bhatia, who is the licensee. So I think that covers everybody who's here. As those who are familiar with the licensing committees, you know, the procedure will be that first of all, I'll invite the licensing authority to present the application for a review and call any witnesses that they have to come before the committee, and then we will have a chance to ask questions of them. Following that, we'll invite the premises to make their representations. That'll be Mr. Panchal, and we will ask any questions we have of them. Both parties can then summarise their cases relatively briefly, and at the end of the hearing, we will retire as a subcommittee along with the legal advisor and committee clerk to consider the decision. The decision will then be given at the end of the meeting, and that'll be confirmed in writing to the premises and the licensing authority within 5 working days. So I think, you know, everybody here I think is pretty experienced in licensing subcommittees, so they'll know what's going on. So at the first point of the procedure, then could I invite Mr. Deere as the licensing authority to present his application for the review?
Thank you. Yes, it's an application from the licensing authority to Ealing Council, review of the premises licence for Jeet Food and Wine, which is number 13, the Vale, Acton W37SH. The licensing authority are one of the responsible authorities prescribed by the Licensing Act 2003. On the 22nd of December 2021, the licensing authority submitted an application to review the premises licence at these premises, and the application was advertised as per the regulations. A newspaper ad was put in the Ealing Gazette on the 12th of January 2022, and on the 22nd, before that, on the 22nd of December 2021, a blue poster had been fixed at the on the window of the premises. Another one was displayed in the town hall. This is been brought after 2 visits by trading standards officers and immigration officers. The first visit was on the 14th of February 2017. We identified ourselves and explained the purpose of the visit to the sole shop worker, who gave his name as Mr. Jeet Bhatia. Upon inspecting the spirits behind the counter, we found 4 bottles of non-duty paid Krupnik and Vybora Polish vodka on the shelves. In the storeroom, we found another similar 6 bottles of non-duty paid Krupnik Polish vodka, and the property was listed in a receipt book and signed over destruction, and a final warning given. On Wednesday, the 8th of December 2021, I attended the premises in company with officers from Home Office Immigration Enforcement. There was a lone shop worker on the premises who I had met on several occasions inside over the last 3 years. He was asked to produce his ID, which he was unable to do, and on being questioned by the officers, he admitted that he had entered the UK with his family on a 6-month visa, tourist, that being in 2015, when it expired 6 months later, it made no further applications to extend or to remain in the UK legally. He stated under caution to the immigration officers, which I was present throughout, that he had been employed at premises for 3 years, was paid £55 per day in cash for a 10-hour shift by owner Mr. Bhatia, and he actually worked Monday to Saturday. And I'd say that I'd seen him on the last 2 visits by myself, and he never was able to produce identification. The shop owner attended the premise and stated to the officers that the male had only worked in the shop since that morning and he did not pay anything. He was issued with a civil penalty notice. So in total, over the 2 visits, 7 litres of non-duty paid alcohol were seized, and obviously 1 illegal worker found in the premises. The unpaid duty on those goods amounts to £70. On the 21st of January, a civil penalty notice was issued to Mr. Bhatia in the sum of £10,000. And at the moment, I haven't got any updates whether that's been paid or any representation has been made against that. There was one other representation, but that was from the immigration service, who just followed up to saying that their officers had been on this day with licensing and found a lone worker. And that is the grounds for the review. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deere. Did any of the committee here have any questions that they'd like to ask at this stage?
Not me, thank you.
No.
Okay, well, I'll just ask one, if I may, then, Chair.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because the, I mean, I know it's not our responsibility to enforce things like, you know, the minimum wage and, you know, other sort of employment legislation, but you know, I see that in the report that obviously the worker not only had no immigration status, but he wasn't paying any tax and national insurance, and obviously wasn't being paid the minimum wage either. I mean, has that been reported to anyone? And are there any plans to, you know, take any action about that, or has that just been sort of, you know, put on one side, and there's simply the action being taken for the immigration, you know, the immigration issue? So that's my question. And also, perhaps you could update us on the status of the civil action, you know, the civil action that is being taken regarding the immigration status, if you do have an update.
Yes, basically, some information has been passed to HMRC by the Immigration Service. No update on that. As mentioned, the civil penalty was issued to Bhatia. And all I can tell you is that I have no further update. But that was issued on, sorry, I said 23rd, in fact, 27th of January of this year. So he's got a certain period in which he can make presentations and to get that fee lowered or £1,000 lowered, or come up with some payment plan. That's the only update.
So sorry, Mr. Deere, just your sound was quite poor there, just particularly towards the end, the last sort of 3 or 4 sentences that you made. You dropped out a little bit. I don't know if it was just me or if it was for everybody else as well. So could I just ask you to repeat just the sort of last 3 or 4 sentences there?
Yes, no problems, Chair. I have no further update on the civil penalty. The only fact I can tell you is I mentioned earlier that it was 21st. It was in fact the 27th of January of this year. A civil penalty notice was issued to Mr. Bhatia. In fact, it was to the company where he's director, Jeet Bhatia Limited. The decision has been made by the immigration due to the evidence, the clear evidence, and on the back of the form, it basically says that he was encountered, fully interviewed in respect of legal working. The appropriate questions were asked to establish employment. The owner was fully interviewed in respect of illegal working, and the appropriate questions were asked to establish employment. Obviously, I can't update the committee any further whether he's made representations against that civil penalty, which obviously he's legally entitled to do, or he intends to pay it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Deere. I just have a couple of questions for you from what you've said there. Do I understand that you say that the individual concerned was known to you from previous visits, that you'd seen him working in the shop previously when you'd visited, doing checks over the last sort of 2 or 3 years? Was that correct or not?
That is correct, Chair. Basically, I was offered to send the information, the intelligence over to Immigration Service, stating that I'd encountered this worker on 2 other occasions in fact, the first time over 2 years ago before COVID, and he's never, every time he's been asked for ID, he's never been able to produce it. He didn't have any ID on him. But the one thing he did have on him was the keys to the shop.
Okay, that's good then. Thank you. I think that clarifies that. And you dealt with my other query was actually about the civil penalty notice, but you dealt with that previously in your answer, so that's fine. Thank you. So I think we're good now. If nobody has any other questions from the panel, yes, Mr. Panchal.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a few questions through you, Chairman, if it's possible, to Mr. Deere.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, Mr. Deere. Good morning. Tuesday, 14th February, you said in your report you visited the premises and those alcohol were found, and you warned the client the bottles were then being taken away to be disposed. Thereafter, was there any other visits after 2017?
Yes, there's one other, and the premises was employed in respect of alcohol on display.
Sorry, I didn't get that, Chair.
Can you hear me, Mr. Panchal? Basically, yes, one other visit was made, and because obviously I said earlier that I'd met the illegal worker previously, and on that occasion it was found to be compliant in respect of alcohol.
Sorry, Chair. Should I take the answer, because I know it's the voice volume or the voice isn't coming through very well. But should I take that there was no alcohol found after 2017 at any other visit? Should I take that as an answer?
Yes. Sorry if you didn't get that. I mean, I heard it quite clearly. I don't know if the committee members did or not. But yes, he said he had encountered the worker there previously on another visit. On that visit, it was compliant.
Yeah. So there was no alcohol found after 2017's incident till 2000, or shall we say till today, or at any other visits by Mr. Deere. The only problem we had was in 2021's visit with the person being illegal working at the premises. So the shop was compliant with the licensing conditions of alcohol and that. So there were no alcohol found. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, you are, Mr. Pancho. Obviously, it was the same worker there that obviously was illegally in the country from 2015.
Yeah, no, that's right. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that after the 2017 alcohol found, there was no alcohol found for counterfeit alcohol or duty paid alcohol wasn't there.
No, that's correct. Nothing else was found. No.
Correct. Okay. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Deere, and that now moves us on to the second part of the procedures, which is for the premises to make their representations. So I believe this will be you now, Mr. Panchal.
Yeah, that's right, Chairman. Yeah, Chairman, I am going to quickly go through. We are not disputing of what had happened in 2017 and 2021, but we're going to be asking for leniency at this very moment. The premises has been there for last 10 years. 2016, the shop was bought by Mr. Jeet, Mr. Bhatia. By the previous owners, left those alcohol there. But anyway, we again would not dispute that because the alcohol was in possession, but we were very careful. My client was very careful and made sure that such a thing does not occur anytime. Coming back to the illegal, we could always, or my client has not disputing what Mr. Deere and what the immigration officer is saying. But it did happen because my client had a disc problem and could not stand up. And he was desperately looking for somebody to run the shop at that very moment. Because it is a small shop, it is a one-man run shop, whereby two people could run it. In other words, two shifts where two people can run it. When he had a disc problem, he was looking for somebody and met this chap at the Gurdwara. He did not work there for 3 years, as mentioned, or as we are looking at. But he worked there on occasionally when it was required to, for 3 hours or 4 hours in a day. He was so afraid with the immigration department, that is what we understand, and that is what we hear from him, to say that if he were to say that, yes, I worked here for 3 years, he would be covered up at one premises when he was working for other premises also. At the present moment also, we have found out that he's still working somewhere illegally, which is none of our business, but we managed to retract that. And every time our client asked for the documents, he said, I will bring it in. And our client was up in the problem for his spinal thing. He was keeping on giving excuses every now and then regarding producing the documents. Yes, we paid him, my client paid him 55 pounds, or they didn't pay him 55 pounds, he paid him 20 pounds every time he worked. And there was a petty cash voucher that was made. Legally, petty cash vouchers can be produced. I asked my client to produce the petty cash voucher today, but he is happy to produce the petty cash vouchers if required by the council at a later stage. Petty cash vouchers can be issued when you up to 50 pounds in a day for any premises. Again, that isn't an excuse that we are going to give you, or we are not going to cover up that excuse. It is a fault of the client for having somebody work for a longer period without seeing the documents and keeping on asking about documents. So we raise our hands up. We're not saying that we are disputing, or we are saying, no, we are arguing with it, or nothing like that. We've learned our lesson. The client has learned his lesson. In 2017, you could see that he had learned his lesson, and there was no, until today, they're not dealing into any counterfeit or any alcohol that are not non-duty paid or anything. They got caught up into this matter, and they again, since today, they've made sure that such a thing does not happen again at the premises. They understand the 4 licensing objectives. They have met us when this review came up, and we've gone through with them on how the 4 licensing objectives can be robustly promoted. We've advised them that in future, if anybody comes up for an employment, their documents must be taken in first. which they have started doing. They have employed a person now, and they've already got the documents in place for the person that they have employed. My suggestion to the committee today is, Chairman, it is a small shop. The shop is a one-man shop. It isn't a very big shop. It is not a huge financial gain shop. It isn't making a huge profits to become a millionaire there, but he is running it. He's surviving with his family with that. And if the shop was revoked today, it would have a huge repercussions with his family and with himself. So, Chairman, I'm suggesting that there would be a change of DPS. We would like the committee to go back and have a change of that. Our proposal to the committee would be, there will be a change of DPS. The DPS will undergo a DPS level 3 course that we run. We will make sure that the shop does have a training menu, which Mr. Deere definitely has a look at our training menus, whereby we enroll and we check all the documents that are in. Regular trainings are logged in. It has already been done. The shop already has a training menu. As soon as they came in, and we decided and we said that is what the way forward for the shop. So it's not proposing today something that they're now doing it, or today they're going to do it. Immediately, when we met the client, we immediately put this into place for the client. So the new employment, the new person who's employed now has all his documents and everything into the training menu. So, Chair, this is what our proposal to the committee is. We're happy to have a suspension of 1 month, whereby we can change the DPS process and all of the processes are in place. You did see, and you did. I asked the question to Mr. Deere that after 2017, was there any alcohol found or anything? And you could see that there was no alcohol found and no counterfeit alcohol matter is handled. So the general public is safe. The local public around shopping at this place are absolutely safe and sound. So, ma'am, sorry, ma'am, Chair, that's our proposal today. But we're not going to dispute anything that has happened in the past. But we're going to make sure that is a future for the shop. Revocation is not the matter at this moment. That is what we feel, and we're very sorry for what has happened at the shop on behalf of the client. And we will make sure it is a big concern. He's absolutely worried about it. He's very worried about what's going to happen in the future. So that's the way forward at the moment, Chair. If there are any questions, we are happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Panchal. do either Councillor Conlon or Councillor Sumner have any questions there for Mr. Panchal?
Perhaps
Yes, Councillor Sumner.
if I could, yes. So are we actually paying the current DPS? Is there a current DPS?
Yes, there is a current DPS. Mr. Bhatia is the current DPS.
So he's paying himself, so that's okay. But there's other question about the person who's not being paid sufficient money and who is here illegally. What's happening with that person? Is that person going to carry on working, or has that person disappeared?
The very that day the immigration officer took him away, we did not see him again. My client did not see him again. We tried, my client also tried to ring him. He did not pick up the phone, but from the local community and from the local, because communities work together, from the local community, we have my client has managed to find out that he's now working somewhere else in another shop, which is again illegal, what he's doing. And we are going to be reporting that to the immigration department.
Okay. Do you mind, while I'm still got the floor, perhaps I could ask, what actually took place on the 8th of December 2021? I've got it in my book, but I can't remember. What was Mr. Deere doing at the premises on that date? No? Was anything happening on the 8th of December 2021?
No, Chairman, there wasn't anything happening. That's the time that he was. Nothing has happened. No, nothing has happened. Sorry, Councillor.
Did Mr. Deere visit on that date then?
Yes, he did. And I think that is when the immigration officer and Mr. Deere visited. And that is when.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Conlon, I don't know, do you have any questions?
Just one, I think, just to clarify, apart from you know, this guy who was found in the shop and without the immigration status, apart from him, is the shop run entirely by, you know, Mr. Bhatia and his family, or are there any other employees at the shop?
At the moment, it is run by the family, entirely by the family.
Have there been employees in the past?
I can ask. His daughter used to help him before, and he's now started helping him again. So it's the daughter and father at the moment, with the wife running the shop.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to sort of clarify that. Thank you.
So, Chair, sorry for being naive here, but these people are all working, but no one's being paid. Is that correct?
Sorry, when they're saying no one is paid, it means...
I don't know. Is anybody being paid for doing this work in the shop?
Yes, it's the family. It's a family business. That's the family's income. So the family is paid. Yes, they are paid.
Yes, Mr. Panchal, but is anybody paying any tax in the family or not?
Yes, they are. They are paying. There's accounts, and there is a legal accounts run every year to the HMRC, and they pay the tax for it.
Every three years, corporation tax 1 year or 3 years.
Yeah, there's a corporation tax also. My client says that he regularly pays.
Okay, and Mr. Panchal, can I ask your client as well? Just you know, we hear that on the 27th of January the civil penalty was issued of £10,000. So what's the status of that, and what is your client doing about that?
Yes, Chairman, he has been given time to certain time to pay, and if he pays that in that certain period, he has a discount from 10,000 to 7,000 to be paid. So he's arranging that 7,000 to be paid in the time period that has been given. So he's been given a time period. What normally happens in the penalties issues, which Hatun Zeb be able to tell you, that they fine you £10,000, and they say if you pay it in a certain period, you have a discount of £3,000. So he's got a discount of £3,000 to be paid before, I think it's end of this month, isn't it? Yeah. End of February. So before end of February, if he pays up £7,000, that is a discount he will have. Otherwise, he will have to go back into 1st of March or so. He will end up paying £10,000. Or he would discuss with us normal circumstances. We would discuss with the immigration department for a few of our clients who have come into these problems, and they get a terms to pay. Yeah, so he's saying that he will be paying the 7,000 before end of this month. An arrangement is being made for him to pay that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Panchal. And also, I mean, you've said in your statement that the worker there, you know, was only working 3 or 4 hours a day and being paid out of or via petty cash, vouchers up to a value of £50. For how long had this been going on?
According to my client, he hasn't been working regularly, although it's been going on for the last 2 years. But he wasn't being paid. He wasn't working there on regular basis. That's what my client's argument is. That he was called up as and when was required, and when he became regular working was when Mr. Bhatia had his spinal problems, and he was in trouble. That is when he was called up in 2021 to say, can you handle the shop for the meantime we are doing.
So your client then says that he was being used effectively as a casual worker when
Yes.
was needed for
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
3 years to come, man. So we 1.5 year to
yeah. That's what we're saying. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, Jim.
Yeah. Well, when he was asked by the immigration officers there, and when Mr. Deere was there, why did he inform them that that was the first day that he'd been working there, this man?
I think he raises his hand up. You get frustrated at this very situation, and he was frustrated, and he does apologize that he thought that this would be the right way of getting away from things, which a lot of people tend to understand, think like that. But he, at the moment, does apologize that he should have not said that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll now ask Mr. Deere if he has any questions for you.
Thank you, Jeet. I have a few. Obviously, I don't know if Mr. Pancho wants to answer for Mr. Bhatia, but can you ask Mr. Bhatia if he has another shop?
He doesn't own another shop.
He doesn't.
That's what he's shaking his head at the moment, because I haven't asked him that question before. वो किसके नाम थे दुकान?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, Bob. I was just asking.
Hammersmith Fulham.
Hammersmith Fulham. It's not. He says it doesn't belong to him. Belongs to the family. His wife doesn't belong to him.
So it basically, I think when people get married, they rights are the same. So basically, he has 2 shops.
Basically,
one, and he's got half of the Acton shop and such and such.
Although he says that I've just managed to find out today, Bob. So I didn't ask that question. I should have asked. My apologies. But what he's now saying to me here is that although he doesn't have anything to do with that shop, although he's owned by his wife, he doesn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, his name is there as a DPS there. So
that's a lot. DPS 2 shops, and he's a very experienced for at least 6 years.
Sorry, you're cutting off, Bob.
Yeah, so sorry.
Surprised.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Deere. Can I just again, I'm afraid your sound isn't very good at all, and we couldn't understand what you were saying. So if you could start again.
Okay, Chair. If Mr. Pancho can turn his mic up, is mute for a little while, it might help.
Yeah, can you mute yourself?
Right, I'll try again, Chair. So Mr. Bhatia is the DPS of 2 shops. He basically runs 2 shops because he's in day-to-day running. That's the explanation of a DPS. They're in day-to-day running of the shop. So he's been for at least 6 years. I'm sure he's served due diligence, and he understands how to circumvent the laws, the tax laws, by allegedly paying people by petty cash that he's got no proof of because he hasn't turned up giving any vouchers, although it to show us as evidence.
Did you get that, Mr. Panchal? Mr. Deere was asking about the petty cash vouchers and saying that he hasn't produced those.
Yes, Chair, he hasn't produced those. I got it from yourself rather than Bob Deere, but I can understand. But we asked Mr. Bhatia, and he says if need be, he will produce them from his accountant. but he hasn't produced it today.
Okay. Anything
Does
else,
that
Mr.
help?
Deere?
Sorry, the other part. Sorry, the other question is he's licensed for at least 6 years.
Sorry, Mr. Deere, we've missed that again. That you were asking about 6 years. Is that the sort of the petty
Yes.
cash vouchers for the last 6 years?
No, Chair. Basically, what my point is, can Mr. Bhatia or Mr. Panchal just confirm that he runs 2 shops because he is the designated premises supervisor on 2, and the meaning of a designated premises supervisor is someone who is in day-to-day running of the business, and he's been a licensee for at least 6 years on this borough, at least.
Mr. Panchal, can your client respond?
Yes, Chairman, I haven't disputed this, and I'm not disputing today also, although I found out that he's got a shop today here in front of me, another shop, because we were dealing with this shop as far as we're concerned. But I understand, and he understands what are the repercussions of what a DPS does. It's a day-to-day running of the shop. He understands he's got the personal license for last 6 years. So, and that is why, hence, when Mr. Wabdir visited in 2017 and those alcohol were found, he immediately reacted and made sure that it would not happen again. It was there when he took over in 2016. So his actions were immediate, understanding the 4 licensing objectives and that. So he immediately made sure until today, he does not breach in the counterfeit alcohol, which is a regular stuff, or the cigarettes that Mr. Bob Deere must be understanding the area has a problem about. But Mr. Bhatia didn't has that problem. The problems erupted when he had a disc problem with himself. That is when his employment was the part-time employer was processed into taking this full-time employment, not realizing he does understand, and he's raising his hands up today. He's not saying that he's disputing about it. He kept on asking for the documents. We have now made him understand that documents must be first presented before employment starts. He understands that the mistake was caused, and he'll make sure that mistake doesn't happen again. We are also requesting him to go away from the DPS. We put down a family member to be trained on the DPS level 2, level 3. The designated payment, there's a special course for apart from the APL Edge. That would help a lot, and that would be a way forward for the family to carry on with the show. That's our suggestion today, and it's not a drastic. What I would put down is Mr. Bhatia and his family is not trying to break the law all the time. This is something that has happened that it shouldn't have happened. Let's put it like that. And they've learned the lesson.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Deere, that you'd like to ask?
No, Chair, I'll bring it up in my summary. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And just I do have one final question from that, Mr. Panchal.
Yeah.
Is that you did mention that Mr. Bhatia's, sort of family business run the shop that we're looking at today, the Jeet Food and Wine.
Yeah.
So is that the business that also runs the shop that his wife owns in Hammersmith?
I think I haven't got much information of the other shop which I've got it today, but I can say that Mr. Bhatia has already said to me and pointing to me that that's her business and is separate. Here he's running the business with the daughter and himself. The wife does herself at Hammersmith, although he's a DPS there also, helping the wife out at times. But his more concentration is on this shop here at the Whale, the Jeet Food and Wine. His intentions are that if he is allowed to carry on today or be allowed to go, then he will make sure nothing happens again. But that's how he's running, the family is running the business. Yeah. They are paying taxes. I've confirmed that. And I'm very much, though corporation tax and everything is thoroughly paid, there is no default on any of those sides.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I think that concludes the second part there. That all the representations and questions have been asked of the committee. So we're now into the third part of the procedures, which is for the summaries. So would you like to briefly summarise, Mr. Panchal, first of all, please? Oh, sorry, it's Mr. Deer first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we say is shown a total flagrant disregard by the fact that when he was first called in December to come to the shop, he found a legal worker. He said he couldn't attend because he was sleeping. He stated that mail come that day, he isn't paid. That's what he told the officers. However, the shop worker was probably the most helpful person the immigration service have met and told them everything they wanted to know: when he came in the country, when he should have left, how long he's been working in that shop, how much he's been paid, and basically exploited. Mr. Bhatia knew that man was an illegal worker straight from day one. So basically it's just a great case of exploitation. When a person comes into a shop underage and asks for any person is asked for ID, I'm sure Mr. Bhatia wouldn't give him a drink if he didn't have ID. So why employ someone that he's just met in the bar who doesn't produce any documents? Mr. Bhatia has been in the trade for at least 6 years. He basically hasn't done any checks. There's a very helpful site called Home Office. It tells you everything a licensee needs to do to check the ID. No due diligence whatsoever, because again, he was saving money. He was exploiting a man that had entered this country for a better life with his wife, 2 children, his mother, and had found an opportunity to work in a shop for the last 3 years. He also mentioned that in 2017, when I found the alcohol, that was left by the previous person a year before when he bought it. They also mentioned that it's well known non-duty paid alcohol in that area. But again, just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean you go and do it. I'm sure Mr. Bhatia doesn't go out and commit burglaries when there's probably over 2,000 burglaries in this borough every year. So he doesn't go out and commit crime just because somebody else is. He's a licensee. He should be a fit and proper person. I'm saying he's not, and I'm asking you to use your ultimate sanction in this case and revoke the license, because he's definitely not promoting the crime and disorder. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Deer. And Mr. Panchal, would you like to sum up, please?
Yes, Chairman, I couldn't understand much. As you know, we have a problem with the mic. Anyway, I vaguely understood what Mr. Deer, I normally work with Mr. Deer quite a lot in the area and try and make sure that we get the right way of getting. Chairman, what I personally would feel in
Mr.
this.
Panchal, if I could just stop you there. I mean, just very briefly to summarise then, if you're saying you didn't hear Mr. Deer clearly, there was a problem with the sound, undoubtedly. But the main thrust of his summary, as I understood it, was that Mr. Bhatia had been exploiting this person as an illegal worker and paying him, throughout a long period of time to make money himself and for his business. And that, there was history there of selling some alcohol illegally as well, which was corrected.
Yes, Chairman, my summary at this very moment, I'm going to be summarizing in saying that you have heard from Mr. Deer and you've seen the report that has been sent to you, that when the 2017, there was not, from my knowledge, I'm not going to put Mr. Bhatia's knowledge, from my knowledge, normally when I come across, as you have seen, I come to quite a big hearings at many instances where I see huge quantities of alcohol or huge quantities of cigarettes at that, which are dealt with by customers, whereby I understand the actions required and actions taken by the council. In this case, there wasn't a huge alcohol found or anything. There was a little alcohol found, and Mr. Bhatia immediately, when it was taken away, did not approach to bring more alcohol in from 2017 to 2021. So it is something that the step he understands, and he made sure, and he doesn't want to act into that. I understand the problem that the immigration status over there, and Mr. Bhatia's disc problem had come in, and he thought that this is a chap who was repeating saying, I'll bring my documents, but Mr. Bhatia was so much in his own thing that he did not realize that there was a mistake being caused, but immediately that mistake has been rectified now. I'm coming down to the guidance where 11.18, I'm going to be stressing here to you. However, where responsible authorities such as the police or environmental health officers have already issued warnings requiring improvement, either orally or in writing, that have failed as part of their own step approach to address concerns. Here we have not failed. Licensing authorities should not merely repeat that approach and should take this into account when considering what further action is appropriate. Similarly, in licensing authorities may take into account any civil immigration penalties which a license holder has been required to pay for employing an illegal worker. So he's not disputing, he's paying the civil penalty where it is required. My view to the committee today under 11.19 is whether licensee consider that action under statutory powers is appropriate, it may take any of the following steps. And I would like the following steps that I would suggest to the committee today is to remove the designated premise supervisor, for example, because they consider that the problem are in the result of poor management. And I would go for the suspend the license for a period of not exceeding more than 3 months. Here, in this case, we are asking for a suspension of 1 month where a new DTS can be put in place. And that is the way forward for these premises. That is our suggestion to the committee today, Chairman.
Excuse me, Mr. Panchal. Can I just ask, were you reading from the Ealing Council policy, licensing policy, or the Section 182 guidance?
Section 182 guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Panchal.
Yeah.
So that then concludes the main bulk of the hearing. So
Yeah.
as I set out at the beginning, the subcommittee will now retire with the legal advisor and the clerk to consider its decision. It's now sort of just after 20 past 11. I would suggest about half an hour is what the committee needs for its decision. So if we were to come back at 10 to 12, 11:50, with the decision, if that is okay for you and your client, Mr. Panchal.
That's okay, Chairman. Yes, that's okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So we will. Sorry, go on, Mr. Panchal.
Should we just leave the committee, this meeting? Yeah.
Yes, if you can leave the meeting, please. If you and Mr. Deer can leave the meeting.
Thank you very much, Chair.
And then rejoin at 10 to 12. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you.